Hello and welcome to a new week in writing with a mosquito that just will not leave me alone. Today is Sunday, August 11th, and this week has been not overly full of writing, but I have been writing a bit, and more importantly, I have been brainstorming with Teresa and Matilda about my new story because I was having some issues with it. So when I started writing this story, I wanted to try to create an actual utopia. I wanted to create a society where things were good, basically. And of course, the problem with that is that in a utopia, it is kind of difficult to find a conflict of any kind, and you need a conflict to write a story. At least I need a conflict to write a story, and most stories need some sort of conflict. And of course, this doesn't have to be that there's something wrong with society, but that is just where my brain ends up. So I was having this issue with my main character. I had a plot, but I didn't really have a purpose. It's difficult to explain, but basically I knew what was going to happen, but it didn't seem interesting enough. So I needed some help to figure that out. So I sat down with Teresa and Matilda, and during the brainstorming session, I was a bit iffy about most of the things that we came up with. But we came up with a few things that at least I could work with, and after that I have been working on it and getting deeper into some of these things. I actually do feel like I have something. I have a conflict, and of course this conflict does involve this utopia not being as good as it seems, but at least it's not as thoroughly corrupted as it could have been. I think it's possibly actually fixable. We'll see about that. Again, I am going to make a video in the future that talks more about this story, so I'm not going too deeply into it now. Anyway, as I mentioned in my last week in writing, I'm on vacation. It's Medieval Week, which is a festival. I keep almost saying Renaissance Fair, but it's not a Renaissance Fair because it's not Renaissance, it's medieval times. It's a few hundred years difference there. But it's a thing, it happens every year in Visby on Gotland, which is an island in Sweden. And I have gone every year for many, many years. It's a great place, it's full of amazing people and amazing things, and it's always just very relaxing. And it usually gets me very, very excited to work on stories, especially fantasy stories, because medieval times, fantasy. Yeah. I'm not working on any fantasy stories currently, so I haven't felt as inspired, although I have felt inspired. I have worked on this story that just doesn't have anything to do with medieval times or anything like that. It's set in the future. What I have done this year that I haven't done any other years, really, has been go to panels or going to lectures. Most of the lectures this year, at least most of the lectures that I was interested in going to, had to do with women in medieval times, and both specific women and just what women did in medieval times, because that's a thing that is just rarely talked about because we don't really know a lot. But that did give me a lot of ideas and a lot of things to think about when it comes to writing women in fantasy that is inspired by real-world history. Usually when I write a fantasy world, I make it a world that is inspired by real-world history or inspired by real-world past cultures, but I change it, and above all, I tend to change it so that it's more equal between men and women, because that's the kind of worlds I want to write about. But these lectures gave me a lot of ideas regarding how to write about women in fantasy worlds that might not be equal between men and women. And it taught me a lot about what women actually did in medieval times and how important they were for the things that you generally think about men doing, like running a country. Of course, I knew from before that men didn't do this all on their own, but these lectures gave me a lot of insight in what women actually did. And so I feel like I'm rambling here, but it gave me a few ideas about videos I might want to make about how to include more women in fantasy. So that might be a thing I do in the future, inspired by these lectures. Anyway, like I said, I have been writing. I am still very excited about the story, and I am currently trying to figure out what level the technology is in the two different parts of the world, of society, of whatever, that this story is set in. And this is very interesting, both trying to figure out where technology has, how it has evolved in the places where it has evolved, and how far it has devolved in the places where they're not using a lot of technology anymore. So yeah, that's a lot of fun, and that is what I'm currently doing. Next week we are going home, and with any luck I will feel inspired to start working on Arc again, because I do still want to finish Arc soon. That's the problem with working on multiple things at the same time, because I want to continue this, I want to world build this, I want to immerse myself in this world, but I also want to finish Arc, and that is a world that I'm already immersed in, and especially given that they're both set in the future, I am a little bit scared that I'm gonna come up with amazing things for this story, and I'm gonna wanna incorporate that in Arc, which might have to change things. So I'm gonna try to keep them separated, and we'll see how that goes. Anyway, how has your week been? Have you been writing? Have you made any great discoveries, or are you just kind of trudging along? Let me know in the comments, and if you're interested in seeing how this is going for me, then hit the subscribe button and the little bell so you can see when I upload my next video, and happy writing! I will see you next time.